Hi, friends. Happy Tuesday, villagers. It is amazing to get the feeling of momentum and empowerment and growth and shit hitting the fan all at the same time. Welcome to life. I'm really excited to bring you to episode 2 of Talk the Talk Tuesdays. And I know I've got a lot of new friends out there who are just getting acclimated to the Facebook tribe. If you're on Instagram, you can always join us over on the Village Wall private group. And we have lots of fun content and daily inspiration. But every Tuesday, let me rephrase. Most Tuesdays, I want to be consistent, but I want to be realistic. I'm joining you to offer my wellness series that really goes into talking the talk and embodying this philosophy that we teach in Village Well called Radial Health. Now, I have a few things to talk about, but the one thing that I want to make sure that everyone understands is you are not alone. Please remind yourself of this week and probably over the next 3 or 4 weeks that you're not the only one going through this crazy chaotic time of new moon, Mercury in retrograde, Samhain, the red serpent wave spell, Halloween, All Hallows Eve, All Saints Day. All of these energies are culminating, and usually in this time of life, at least this is what I've noticed for the last few years, at the end of October, beginning of November, we're really in this tumultuous time of kind of topsy-turvy energies building a lot of momentum and a lot of transition that can feel a little bit offensive. Let's be real. It can be like a personal affront as if the universe is attacking you. But I continue to remind my clients and reassure people that I meet, because we're all going through this, is that these more immediate upheavals, these more really present day and current situations that are pushing and challenging you, they're actually going to be creating long-term changes that are going to set you into a whole new rhythm for accessing your greatness and really allowing divine and spirit to be able to channel through you more efficiently without all the static. But there does have to be a bit of an upheaval at the beginning for you to get that powerful frequency and vibration, really tuning your transmission tower, right? We're all kind of radio stations here, emitting certain frequencies. And when we tune into our center and we refine and vibrate in a way that reaches for something bigger, we actually become more of a conduit for divine wisdom and inspiration to move through us. So I usually like to talk a couple things about, movement, plant medicine, and natural time when it comes to this sort of philosophy of radial health, because we all know that wellness isn't just about the diet, right? It's not just about getting your good exercise, although those are two main pieces to the bedrock of living a healthy life. But in this radial approach to wellness and health, which is what we teach in Village Well, it's very much about looking 360 degrees, taking in a full scope of your picture, of your wellness, your mindset, right? The way that you talk to yourself, the way that you're able to have healthy boundaries and healthy dynamics within your love life, your career, your wellness, your service, your community. And accessing this you as the center of it all, like the core hub at the center of the wheel of your life. When you build and strengthen that relationship to you, first and foremost, again, that's when you become more of a conduit for divine energy to move through you and to you, okay? So I'm going to start a little bit today with the natural time, because this seems to be a little bit more of a relevant conversation for a lot of people, is what is happening up there in the cosmos. If you haven't heard of this natural time calendar, it's a 13-moon calendar called Natural Time or Dream Spell, and it also brings into the cycles of a year-long rhythm the modernized version of the Mayan calendar, right? So you'll hear me talk about things like red serpent wave spell, or I am a blue electric eagle, or inviting you to understand that we're in a self-existing moon right now for 28 days. All of this is a new language that if you haven't really begun to open yourself up to the 5th dimension, then this is just the surface, right? You're just scratching the surface to understand and learn how to look at time in a more radial way. So I won't go too deep into this. I do personal readings and one-on-one charts. I can read your destiny oracle if you're curious to dive deeper. But I highly encourage you to just get the calendar in the first place if you're curious to learn more. But right now, we're actually in the very heart of the Mayan grid, which is a 260-day count called the Tzolk'in calendar, and that's all layered into this year-long calendar that starts in July. And when we get to the halfway point, we're spiraling in for 130 days. It's kind of like a big inhale in that you're taking more. It's an introspective time. Hey, Zach, good to see you. I've actually been meaning to reach out to you. Stay in touch. It's an introspective time where your inhale kind of pulls you and spirals you in almost to a little bit more of an introverted time of life. So you can reflect back on the last 130 days, and we're not quite to the center of it all. We're just leading into the heart of darkness, as I sometimes call it. But as we move towards the center of the Mayan calendar, towards day 130, 131, we actually start to feel the pressure, like we're almost coming into such a dense and intense place of time, because time can actually be a place, right? It can actually be a destination. And so as we're moving into the center of the Tzolk'in calendar, we always come to a point of what's called the red magnetic serpent. And it's a 13-day wave spell, and this began just a few days ago on Friday, October 25th. And now if you think about the sort of archetypal energies of the serpent, you can think about how you don't get to see the bigger picture. You are straight down, belly to earth, right? And the consistent process that snakes go through of shedding layers, right? They let go of an old skin over and over and over again. And even through that rawness and that vulnerability, they serpentine themselves out and writhe into the next cycle. This can feel like a really intense time of life. And if you're feeling this right now, please remember, you're not alone. But the chaos that's happening and shaking you up at the core level is for long-term new rhythms in your life to continue to shake out the old stuff, let it go, eliminate, and then welcome in new energies for what the next chapter of your life is going to look like. So this red serpent time is all about survival. If you feel like your needs do not get met, right, and those are your basic needs, food, home, sex, I was going to say duplication, reproduction, the ability to feel like you have all of your base needs met on a regular basis, the ability to let your damn pelvic floor relax for once in a while, to let your belly soften a little bit and not be so stoic or rigid or holding to the old. When you start to shift at the bedrock of you, the basal instincts of connecting to your source of guidance and introspection and gut instinct, right, that really is what this time represents. So start to get you more integrated and more in tune with your gut instincts and with your guttural response of what it is you feel on a more vibrational level. Because again, if you were an eagle, right, if we were in that more eagle vision time of life, you would have a bigger picture of life. But when we're in the red serpent, you're about as limited in what you can see as it gets. You're way more inclined to move on instinct by what you feel and what you're pulled to and drawn to and magnetized to, okay? So from October 25th, which was last Friday, to, where are we? November 6th, right? So next week, then you're feeling this energy of helping to release the old energies, like an old skin, and crawl out of that outdated way of being so that you can, maybe in a more vulnerable way be exposed, but in a really empowered way, choose the next inspired life force, life-giving, life-affirming practices and rhythms and relationships and outlooks, philosophies that are going to help you take your life to the next level. Okay, so now on top of this, in this natural time calendar, this is not necessarily related to the Scorpio time or the astrological charts you're familiar with, but it's very interwoven because there's nothing isolated, right? Synergy of life is that it's all connected. We're culminating in this really intense time right over Halloween, right over All Saints Day. And in the more pagan cultures of existence, right, way back in the day, this time is called Samhain, which for many cultures is actually its own sort of new year. It's kind of moving through the heart of darkness to get to the other side. On the other side, there's a new beginning. There's an opportunity for fresh starts, for a feeling of, oh, I have actually come through the eye of the needle or the center of the storm, and on the other side, there's a fresh breath, right? So when Halloween comes, and it's been building since October 10th, in case you haven't felt it, right around the Aries full moon that we experienced a couple Sundays ago. Just a few days before that, shit started to hit the fan in my world and people around me. In that sort of like, here you go, preparation time. Mercury is going to go into retrograde on Halloween. So we've just been in the shadow phase leading up to Mercury retrograde, and on Thursday we're in a 3 weeks cycle of that planet of communication, of technology, of really being able to connect with people. It's going to go backwards. It's going to go in reverse. That energy feels a little bit more retro. In that, it's going to give you a chance to look at old projects, right? Or reevaluate ideas or dreams or goals that you have in place. It's an important time to look at what you maybe fell off of, what's something that you started that you never completed. This is a really powerful time over the next few weeks leading up to Thanksgiving for you to start to put some nice bookends on this, especially as we prepare to transition into 2020. I don't know if you guys feel this yet, but the energy of what 2020 is going to bring is massive. And this is only a sweet little like nudge from the universe, even though it might feel like you're getting hit by a semi-truck. This is only a gentle nudge, right? We're just building momentum for all the shift and amazing expansion that's coming at the beginning of next year and beyond. And if you remember where we were in July when this year started, I introduced the concepts of the Dalai Lama's energy, which is going to be influencing us over the next 13 years. So it's a really powerful time when healers and people offering holistic medicine, alternative approaches, preventative health care, and energy work are going to be elevated and uplifted at every turn. So long as you're grounded, you're alchemized, you're fortified in your own practices, you are actually talking the talk and walking the walk that you teach and preach. When you are an embodiment of your services, the world is going to start to open up for you. And even if you're not in the healing realm, but I know there's some artists out there and musicians and other people that are tapping into small business and entrepreneurship, if you are in alignment, whether it be in the healing modalities or not, if you're aligned with your core values, if you are aligned and following the philosophies that you believe, you're just going to see more and more opportunities open wide for you to give you that next breadcrumb or that next lily pad so that you can keep confident taking the next step, the next step, the next step. It's just too easy to get stuck when life throws a curveball at you, but this is not the time to stop moving. This is really the time to keep crawling out of the old skin. Keep looking for places where maybe you've forgotten your deepest desires, or you've let go of your dreams. And let the next few weeks in Mercury retrograde give you a little bit of a pause where you actually slow yourself down enough to see what is coming back around. In this Mercury retrograde time, there's a revisiting, there's a reawakening of energy. Old cycles come back up, old relationships sometimes, old habits. Sometimes relationships are habits, right? They start to rear their heads, and it's a really important time for you to be in the center of it all and go, okay, what can I learn as something that maybe needs to be revitalized in my life? And what can I take in to understand what can be released in my life? Now, on top of acknowledging that if there is something that you really haven't tied up the loose ends within your world, right, especially as we're preparing to move into the holiday season, then I want to offer you this oil of basil. And it maybe is a little bit more of an obscure oil if you haven't experienced it in your life as an oil. And surely all of you have had a caprese salad at some point, or you've eaten some pesto. But when you tap into the essence of plant medicine, it's a whole different relationship and a whole different approach. And I'm actually layering this on. I have a few sword deltoids. I've been doing a little bit more asana in the yoga tradition than I have over the last 7 years, and I'm noticing a little bit of tension in my front shoulders with doing some more of that weight-bearing chaturanga action. But anytime you use basil topically, you can layer it on with the carrier oil. You're actually taking in and sort of absorbing a sense of spice, right? Like basil itself is an herb, it's a spice, so it's a spiciness, so it's an alivenment, it's an enlivening energy, but can actually be really penetrative for any tightness and tension that's being held in the body. So it can start to be more alkalizing And alchemizing is what I meant to say, but I'm going to look it up and see if it's alkalizing as well. But the reason I bring up basil oil today, not only because when you're shivering cold, because it's 8 to 10 inches of snow out there in Denver today, it can actually be spicy and warming. It's also called the oil of devotion. Now, as I was getting ready to do this talk today, I did a little research and I found out that basil oil was actually traditionally used. It's most normally sourced from Africa. It's traditionally used in transitions of death. So in ceremony, in ritual, to help move spirits into the afterlife. A lot of tribal cultures use basil oil. I love saying basil. They use basil oil as a way to help make that transition. And when we're in Samhain and we're in this Halloween time, there is a lot of back and forth conversation and dialogue happening between spirit world and the physical, right? Between those who have passed on and our ancestors, as well as those who are making their transition in time. I find there's a lot of repeated cycles in my people, in my community, in the world around me, where we're noticing there's a little bit of people leaving the planet. And those who have already left the planet are coming back and trying to communicate, because the veil right now between us and the spirit world is the thinnest. So using basil oil is kind of like a bridge and an invitation for you to open up this devotional practice for asking for support, asking for help from the invisible guidance of spirit, of cosmos. When you use basil oil as that devotional practice, you're literally creating a bit of a portal or an energetic vortex for spirit guides to be there more readily for you. And if you do so with intention, right, even just opening a bottle and taking a few deep breaths, rubbing on your palms, and if you have a therapeutic grade, really high quality, you can use it topically or even cook with it as a way to continue to bring in this more ceremonial approach to being that bridge between the invisible underworld, welcoming the shadows of life, the underbellies of spirit to come to the fore, and work with them as a way to help you guide yourself forward, feeling confident as Mercury gets a little bit intense, or as you're feeling like you need to finish and come around and tie up loose ends. Basil is another really powerful oil as a devotion oil for you to help follow all the way through to the end of a cycle, right? It's so easy sometimes to get excited and to start something new, but then the shiny thing syndrome comes in and you're on to the next thing where you can't actually make real progress and get real traction, or you just throw up your hands and you don't move yourself forward to the next, or to the completion, right, of a project or something new. So basil oil is really powerful for helping you get nitty-gritty, get your nose to the grindstone, and get yourself to that end point of completing cycles. Because there is no surprise, there is no accident, of course, basil oil is the perfect one that I chose for today to help integrate the underworld and the spirit world with right now and the physical, and also to help you finish out old projects and integrate new opportunities for you to prepare the transition of your life into 2020 and to get through the holidays with a little bit less on your plate, right? If you can tie up some loose ends over the next few weeks, right, then there's a really powerful opportunity you have to free up some of your energy so that you can be with your family and in the holidays just present and really allowing the holidays to be a healing time instead of a stressful overload and overwhelming time, which can happen for a lot of people. So one more thing, because I like to get into the body, I want to just introduce this conversation to you of pulling on your arms and pulling on your legs. Okay, some of you I'm talking to as far as your number one health concern, and stress is always one of them. Stress, inflammation, recovery, right? So if you have any athletic endeavors or if you have old injuries or surgeries, recovery is one that comes up all the time. So inflammation, managing stress, and recovery. You can actually affect all of those things, and I would venture to say that even sleeping better is going to be there for you. If you start to just pull on your legs and pull on your arms, okay? So I'm talking particularly to the connective tissue matrix, right? When you start to talk about devotion, right, and reaching out for spirit guides and support and welcoming in guidance that comes from other dimensions, you've got to first and foremost be devoted to yourself and your own best interests, first and foremost. This is what Village Well teaches, is to strengthen the individual and to empower your relationship with yourself, long before you go out there and serve the planet, right? Or help heal the world, right? You've got to heal yourself. So every morning, especially over the next few weeks, I encourage you to lay in bed and just pull on your glove, right? You don't have to worry about directionality or spiraling or the joints, anything other than just imagining you're putting on a sleeve of your own muscle and skin. And what happens is it actually starts to integrate closer to the bone. When you pull the connective tissue sheath as a unit, right, all the way on from fingertips to core, you're actually starting to feel more connected to yourself. The tissues are more engaged and empowered to hold stability. Now, this is different than rigid and hardened muscle strength. It's a very different sensation. It's very different in the quality of tone that you're looking for as opposed to just making a bicep muscle, right? One way to feel it, if this is new for you, is to make a bicep muscle and then put your glove on, your muscle sleeve, and push through that tone and try to keep the whole of your arm as engaged as your bicep was when you just made the muscle. It's never just one area that we look to engage. When we're approaching radial health, when we bring ourselves to this radial approach of looking 360, of growing into the fifth dimension, we have to look that everything is integrated. So it's no mistake. The Mercury retrograde is happening and the planetary alignments, that the red serpent wave spell is happening, and I just happened to devote myself to the basil oil introduction today and to the fact that we need some support when it comes to inflammation, recovery, and stress in our lives. So same thing, you kind of pull the muscle sleeve on and then you pull the tissues towards the core of the body as you push the bones away. If you do this in bed, lying down, really, again, it's like a skinny jean, or when you put on your leggings, you pull the energy tight to the bone. You're actually helping the lymphatic drainage mechanism of the body. You're moving the tissues to help flush and detox all the way to the areas where the lymph is the most dense. And that's the really powerful pathway of detox for the whole body, is when you know how to engage the connective tissues and you know how to move energy towards the lymphatic system to get the drainage, you're gonna be a lot more free and energetically open and clear in your body and your joints, as well as in your mobility, your spinal health, and the ability to feel lighter on your skeleton, because the issues aren't quite so heavy and ingrained in all of your body's tissues. Remember, the connective tissues works like memory foam. So it holds the situation, it holds the posture, it holds the memories that you hold most often. So if you're in a cyclical thought pattern, it's somewhere in the body. If you're in a habitual physical posture, it lives in your body. And for today, the offering to remove the issues from your tissues is to go into that devoted place, really open yourself up to spirit world, using basil oil as a way to invite and invoke the energies that you can't see, the mystery of your ancestors and those who have passed on, as well as giving devotion to yourself by offering the self-massage technique, which is so easy. It's just pull your arms on, pull your legs on all the way to the core of the body, all the way to the heart, all the way to the hips, and get that energy, that lymphatic pump starting to move to help you lighten your load, free up your energies, so that through the next few weeks of Mercury, you don't have to get weighed down and heavy around life. You can actually start to lighten your load and feel more free. So if there's any questions, hey, Megan, it looks like you're live with me today. If anybody's out there that has questions, I'll stick around for another minute or two, and I'll talk specifically about the energy of the day. But that's pretty much it for today's Talk the Talk. It's about seeing the ways we can interweave our wellness practices, look at life in a radial approach, and recognize that the shit that's hitting a fan at work is not isolated from the planetary alignments that's happening way up there in the cosmos, right? And the calendar that we follow in natural time is very much acknowledging that we're in a season of shedding layers, right? Letting go of old habitual habits, which sounds so cliche, but when you really do feel ready and are at this precipice of letting go of an old identity or letting go of a thought pattern or of an old habit, it can feel like you're the most vulnerable person ever, right? So it's important to acknowledge that you're not alone. And when you act out of devotion, you ask for help, you invite support and guidance from other ethereal realms and other dimensions, you actually start to see how interconnected and interwoven all of life is. And maybe you won't see your great-grandmother who passed on 20 years ago, but you're going to have a conversation with somebody who reminds you of her. You're going to walk into a home and you're going to smell that same soup that she used to cook, and smell will reflect a bunch of memories about her. Or fill in the blanks about some energetic guidance that you found in your life that gave you a sense of self, a sense of home, a sense of comfort. And when you get those hits, those little synchronistic alignments, don't ignore them. Don't push them away. Don't just brush them off as happenstance or coincidence. Take the time, and a life of devotion is one that sees those moments, invites them in, and offers gratitude for their guidance. Wisdom is there and available for you any moment of the day. If you welcome it in, you're going to start to learn and get a little bit more insight to what your gut is telling you, to what your heart is calling for. That's the radial approach to life. So shit's hitting the fan. It's intense. We got 10 inches of snow happening here in Denver. We're about to go into the Halloween season, which is when Mercury starts retrograde, and we're shedding incredible layers in the natural time wave spell of the red serpent, which goes through November 6th. And then as we continue to move through the natural time cycles, we're getting closer and closer to the very core center of the galactic calendar, of the Tzolk'in calendar, which is a 260-day count. And we're going to hit that center point right on November 20th, a week before Thanksgiving. So that's just a little bit of foreshadowing. But I wanted to just remind you, you're not alone. Come back, watch the videos. If you want to learn a little bit more, please don't hesitate to reach out. I've been messaging so many of our new friends, and I'm excited to stay connected to your top wellness priorities and to keep empowering you with the perspective of radial health, radial living, and take that approach to looking at your own multidimensional spirit, your own full capacity of greatness, and to keep reaching for more in your life. You deserve it. Nothing but the best. I'm so honored that you're here with us. Pull on your arms, pull on your legs, and if you stuck with me this far and you want a little bit of sample of basil oil, first person to reach out to me, I'm going to send you some oil so that you can use it in your own devotional practices. Send me a personal message. I'll send you some basil and a little extra love. Talk to you soon, you guys. Have an amazing day. Namaste.